Here we go. Brian Coval on Lavinia Survival against Andy Probasco on, yes, no typo, Death Shadow. We spent so much time talking about Lavinia and about Andy's taste in innovating blue decks. We didn't talk about the specific innovation he has here of Death Shadow. Couple mulligans for Brian, and none of those hands look any good. All right.
Wow.
He got to a 4-card hand that's got a Bazaar in it. Survival would be spectacular if he had a second mana. He's going to probably just have to Bazaar it all into the yard, though.
One of the social media commentators today, I think, observed that Brian has an unusually high number of Squee Goblin Nabob in his survival deck, which actually makes the hand that relies a lot more heavily on Bazaar viable, because you can just get that card advantage turn over turn, that iterative card advantage.
Totally. Here's Thoughtseize. So Andy's going to get to take the survival. I don't know. There's some chance Brian maybe scried something to the top. They could cast it. Andy can't take the Bazaar, though. We're going to see.
No.
Oh
my God. How unfair. So this is one of the kind of cornerstone broken interactions in Vintage. Probably most of our viewers have seen it before. But the Bazaar turn one free hollow one has become a kind of ominous boogeyman in the format. I think it's awesome, but you're seeing it in action here, turn one in the VSL round one this evening.
Yeah, I've heard some people calling for, we have to restrict this. It's crazy. Like, it's Vintage. Like, this isn't out of line given the other ridiculous stuff the rest of us can do. You know,
turn 1 4/4
cards.
A turn 1 4/4 for 0 seems kind of fair in Vintage. So Andy Probasco fires off his turn 2 Ancestral Recall here, which kind of sets up the rest of his hand really nicely. Now, I hadn't seen a lot of this Death Shadow business because I don't play a lot of Legacy or Modern, but it definitely gave me pause when I was looking through his list and seeing Watery Grave, which is just another way to inflict some self-damage.
Yeah, it's just he has shock lands instead of dual lands.
Right.
Like, the whole shtick is fetch lands and shock lands and Thoughtseize and Mental Misstep allow him to get his life total down. I mean, this Hollow One attack kind of does Andy a favor, right? Death Shadow is relatively quickly going to be able to block Hollow One.
Right. Right. He's inflicting damage that will make the Death Shadow larger. By the way, it's pretty amazing. This was a really good draw for Brian, because he drew Noble Hierarch, which he can play off his Trop here, which will also make the Hollow One bigger and give him an additional mana.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, like I said, the Death Shadow is so weird. What Brian needs to do is he needs to go wide. The actually good draws that he wants are Vengevines and Basking Rootwallas, so that he can get wide enough that Death Shadow can't just say stop.
And he's also aware that Andy's got all these missteps in his deck too. But
yeah, Brian didn't even bother to play the Hierarch.
Well, it's interesting also that Andy does so much self-inflicted damage that it really changes the clock math as well. If you were just, it does actually increase, it takes a turn away, against a 20 life point opponent. But in this scenario, Andy's just pulling so far ahead. He's going to snap back this Ancestral here.
I don't know how he's pulling that far ahead. Like, Brian has Squee going with Bazaar, so he is able to, basically impulse every turn. Like, that's a bunch of cards in Andy's hand, but the missteps don't do anything. The Git Probe is like some damage. The Time Walk's good. The Death Shadow's good. He can draw some more with Cruise.
He should be able to play Cruise next turn with all these cantrips, because he can play the Walk, Probe, and Brainstorm into the Cruise.
I do think Andy's ahead, but only because Brian hasn't managed to find any Vengevines.
No, Brian is digging as quickly as he possibly can.
It is interesting to me how bad the Hollow One is in this matchup, and we were like, oh my god, he took the Hollow One turn one. Okay, here's a free Basking Rootwalla. You see another trick that this deck does. This deck has multiple free creatures, which, speaking of Lavinia shuts off the free Hollow One. Lavinia also shuts off the Basking Rootwalla with Madness.
Right.
Those just get countered if Lavinia is in play. Andy, though, the one of us that does not actually have Lavinia in his list.
That misstep will give him exactly the amount of cards he needs in the graveyard with Probe, Time Walk, and Brainstorm, so he won't have to play anything else. Or top deck a fetch land to be able to just play the Treasure Cruise off the 1 mana.
Yeah, we've also hit the port where Brian has to start chump blocking that Death Shadow.
Right. And it's interesting, the missteps here, look, they put Brassman at 2 life. He's already.
Welcome to Death Shadow Math, Steve. Everybody else has already been familiar with this. Maybe not with Mental Misstep specifically. We are in the one format where you can play Mental Misstep, but yes.
But he has to be careful. He can't misclick when he plays another one of these, tap lands.
Well, it's not going to take him long. This Time Walk means Hollow One chumps, then Andy untaps, attacks again. I don't think he should just. I mean, I guess he doesn't attack the Snapcaster here. We're almost done. If this Treasure Cruise finds a second Death Shadow, then we are in fact just done.
He can get a second bite if he. Okay, I was gonna say he can get a second bite if he gets the right with Brainstorm and Treasure Cruise. What's the black card on the far right?
I think it's a Demonic Tutor. It's a Demonic Tutor promo.
Oh, Andy, come on.
You don't like his art choice? Yeah, that fetch land does not make mana because I think everything comes into play tapped. I don't think he has any basics.
And what would the basics would have to be a mountain or an island here? Oh, he does.
He had one volcanic. Okay.
Wow.
He's got a volcanic. Now he can Demonic Tutor for Snapcaster, snap the Time Walk, and we're just done. Right. Next turn, he got Lightning Bolt. That'll also do it. I like my solution better. Come on, Snapcaster for Time Walk is way more fun than Lava Spike you. Just as
that's game. Wow, this was fast. Andy came out of the gates quick. Now, of course, Brian was severely handicapped by a mulligan to 4, but Andy also mulligan to 6.
I mean, look, you could say Brian was handicapped, but he would have kept that draw at 7. He would have kept that hand with any other 3 cards in it.
This game went by so fast we didn't actually have a chance to commentate on this, but did his opening hand, his first hand of 7, it had an Ancestral Recall and a Lavinia. I thought it had a blue mana source and was it Tropical Island and a Mox in the 7? Do you recall?
I don't remember.
I'm wondering why he didn't think that was good enough. It's really interesting. And by the way, I've always wondered what the theoretical limit in terms of a no-land hand is. Andy's original hand had 2 Force of Wills and a Misstep. It's approaching that. Of course, it's on the play.
Chat agrees with you that Brian mulled Recall Blue Source Mox.
Wow. So that would have been fun to analyze that a little bit more, but everything happened so quickly. And
he didn't have any of the engine cards in his deck. I mean, it could easily be that this deck is, if I don't
totally
have Bazaar or Survival.
Yeah.
Right. I think you might just have to multi you hit one of those.
Still, keeping an Ancestral Recall is,
It's like half of that mulligan hand right there.
Right. I mean, he could have potentially played turn 1 Ancestral, turn 2 Lavinia, right?
Lavinia against Death Shadow, though, Lavinia does. Andy is the deck this tonight that Lavinia just. What does it even do?
Doesn't he have Force of Wills? I assume he's got 4 Force in addition to the Missteps. It does something. I mean, it's still,
It turns off his Missteps, I guess.
And it also turns off, we saw Treasure Cruise being used right there, Gitaxian Probe,
All right. I guess he's got basically this. He's similar to the Xerox decks.
Yeah, he is. I consider it a Xerox deck.
It basically is.
So here we go, turn 1, Hollow 1 again.
Well, this time the Bazaar found a pair of Vengevines.
Wow.
He decides to not play the Hollow 1 because he wants to set up a 2-creature turn to get those Vengevines back.
Exactly.
That's really interesting.
And both players, by the way, are graced with Ancestral Recalls. How lucky.
Man, I didn't know you decline Hollow 1 there to set up double Vengevine.
That's fascinating. So to the debate we were having earlier about is turn 1 Hollow 1 just too good? Brian has said no, right?
Yeah, he'd rather have turn 2 Hollow 1 with a pair of Vengevines. He needs to find either a Basking Rootwalla or another Hollow 1 or basically like a Noble Hierarch. Noble Hierarch we get.
Yeah, that'll do it. Yeah.
It has to be a creature that can cast off 1 dual land and an Elvish Spirit Guide.
Yeah, he's not running the Death Rites. He's running Hierarch instead.
Yeah.
So.
Meanwhile, Andy's cantripping like the
interesting
deck that he kind of is.
Andy knows that Brian doesn't have anything that can counter this Ancestral, right? Ooh, Surgical Extraction. I was going to make a remark about that earlier. This is a cool piece of tech that Andy's running. This is going to really blow a lid off Brian's plan, right? I mean, and Brian's not going to see it coming either. By the way, Lavinia does partly stop Surgical Extraction.
Yeah. You can still pay the black for it.
Right. Wow.
This is going to be a blowout. He even slow rolled his hollow one to get here. And Andy can wait. This is going to get misstepped.
This is an interesting choice, right? I mean, if you're Brian and you just want to get those Vengevines into play as quickly as possible, do you play the Ancestral or do you try and Bazaar first to try and hit a Basking Root Wallet and another hollow one?
I think you Ancestral first.
I think that's right, but it's
Yeah,
not.
you want to be able to find
super clear because
well,
if you
what's the advantage of waiting? Like he's
good
got
point. He could just
Spirit Guide into the hierarchy
right afterwards. Yeah. Well, the advantage of waiting is that if you use your mana on Ancestral, then you have less mana to be able to cast.
But there's no 2-mana creature that it's this surgical. Oh my god.
Brutal.
Vengevine trigger. This is what the deck does. Nope. This is not what your deck does anymore, Brian Coval. You are now playing just a Hollow One deck, which is good,
Unbelievable.
but probably not going to be good enough. Chat is split between this being brutal and beautiful. Something that starts with a B. We've got it down to that.
They're both at the same time. I mean, this is really, I think, what we expect in Vintage. We want to see powerful plays and powerful counter plays, right? And
like Rakdos Charm? Is Rakdos Charm on your list? Rakdos Charm is what? It destroys a graveyard? Does it destroy an artifact?
It does destroy an artifact. I think it's second ability.
So it's like your choice of the Hollow One or the Vengevines. He's like, I got the Vengevines covered. We'll use Rakdos Charm to kill Hollow One. Man, Andy Probasco, ladies and gentlemen. This
coming out of the gates.
He's making this Death Shadow deck look amazing. Well, that's not nothing. No green mana left to activate it. No creatures in hand. He really needs Squee is usually the engine. Like you can Bazaar, he can mill himself for a couple, you can try to find a Squee. He obviously doesn't know about that Rakdos Charm. I suspect. God, this Death Shadow deck, it's like, do you want to take 5? Maybe you just prefer to take 5 damage here. Maybe you take 5 and then blow it up with Rakdos Charm.
It's so dicey when you don't actually have the Death Shadow. That's the thing, is that, when you're searching for it, if you can't find it, it just seems terrifying to just continually to self-inflict, to wound yourself.
And he does go ahead and not take the damage, blow up the monster. Force of Will, he's got a Treasure Cruise.
Yeah, it's looking nice here.
Snapcaster back the Surgical if Brian does come up with a Squee.
I expect him to cruise and then snap back Ancestral, but let's see.
Oh man, this Cruise has to eat one of those cards.
He can keep the Ancestral though. He's got, I think, 9 cards, 8 or 9
cards. He has
to
eat either the Ancestral or the Surgical, is my point.
Yeah.
Surgical still has
at this point,
here.
The Surgical's done most of its work.
Squee is a real game. Squee is the one thing that can beat him here.
That's right. But he's got more Surgicals in his deck. Now, one of the things that is amazing about the Survival deck is it does not take very long for Survival to set up an amazing kind of alpha strike with Survival. So
it usually involves Vengevines, though.
It does.
Oh, I like this. Lightning Bolt the green mana away. Sure. Now he's only got 1 Survival activation, and that's if he comes up with a creature. Wow, Andy Probasco is... You said it wasn't going to take long for Survival to turn into a lethal board. How about this Death Shadow deck?
This has been a very fast match. We're on turn 3, Randy.
I'm not sure there's going to be a turn 5. And Death Shadow is now in hand. Yeah, Brian's going to mill and see if he can find a Squee. Does not. He's got nothing. He's just going to take 6 or 7. Sure, might as well play the Mox. Again, he's just going to mill with Bazaar and hope for a Squee to get his engine started.
Now, Andy can upkeep Vamp Tutor, so I presume he's going to get the Time Walk.
Yeah, Time Walk. Time Walk, a black mana, a Death Shadow. Wow. Can you beat this? I don't know if I can beat this.
Well, I am playing Paradoxical Outcome, so I can race it. I don't know if I can beat it. He's got a tremendous amount of disruption with Thoughtseize on top of all the free blue counter magic, but we'll see.
I think I need to draw the card Monastery Mentor against him. That's what I need to do.
That's maybe part of my plan as well.
All right, you have a mentor. Card's really good.
Bravo.
Yeah, quick 2-0. This Death Shadow deck kicking ass, taking names, and Andy Probasco going to take the first win of the night. Brian Coval going to take the first loss. If you guys didn't see us last week, the format this season, we've got 4 guys. It's me, Steve, Brian, and Andy. We're going to play a full round robin. So that's 6 total matches. Everybody plays everybody. At the end of that, we just have whatever records we have. The format for the season is set up where you play 2 nights, and then we just count up how many wins you got. If you got to 4 wins between your 2 nights, congratulations, you're through to the playoffs. 5-1, you get a bye into the semifinals, and if anybody pulls off a 6-0, they go straight to the final show of the year. They will be in the finals. Details on the playoff structure will depend how many players we get at each of those stages, but it means every win counts, and I know all 4 of us would love to just get halfway there tonight. Brassman took the first step. That was impressive.
That was super impressive. But I think for most of us, we're just trying not to go 0-3 so that we can at least be viable for the playoffs.
Yes,
so we'll notch a win.
We'd like to still be in contention in the second round. That's true. All right. Well, it's going to be me versus Steve after the break. Don't go anywhere. We will set up that game. We'll be right back.
CoolStuffInc.com is your home for everything Magic the Gathering. Need singles for constructed or kitchen table play? Looking to pick up some sealed product or the latest in Magic accessories? We've got you covered with our extensive live inventory. With free shipping on orders of $100 or more, a 25% buy list bonus, and our ever-popular customer rewards program, CoolStuffInc.com is the place for all your Magic the Gathering needs.